Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Thursday, the 8th of August. All day. Where's Mr. Brown? Come on, he shouted at me yesterday for being a minute late, and I wasn't even late. So where the bloody hell is he? Tell you what, whilst we're waiting for him, let's do the legals. Dum dum dum. Right, nothing discussed on this Spaces session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ Global Limited, trading as PIQ or PIQ Suite, or its affiliates, including the hosts, which is Mr. Brown, who I'm just adding right now, or myself, Mr. Ryan Paisley. Hopefully he's got that invite. Come on down, Mr. Brown.
Good morning.
Where is he? Morning. What time
All
do you
this,
call
all
this?
this.
Afternoon.
No, hang on. I've got a bone to pick here. All this. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? I'm sat here waiting for you to press your buttons and make me a bloody host.
Well, you weren't showing up on the big screen.
Well, I was.
That's all I have to say. Well, not on mine, you weren't.
Maybe you need a bigger screen.
Or to be honest, it might be the fact that I've got shit reception out in the out in Wurzel Gummidge territory. Well, anyway, look, I've done the disclaimer. And my legs are in tatters from a 10-mile walk yesterday. I want to just go back to bed, to be honest. Go on.
10
What's
mile
happened?
walk. Have they not invented
Well,
a
I thought.
motor car down there yet?
Well, no, I thought it'd be a good, nice idea to go and touch some literal grass and go for a nice wander down some country lanes. And I strategically placed a pub at the end of my walk. Got to the pub, first sip of my lovely pint on a riverbank, and then realised, fuck, that means I got to walk 5 miles home. Um, uh,
You muppet.
and yeah, so it took me about an hour and a half to walk there and about 3 hours to walk back. Anyway, I digress. Right, what happened yesterday? Apart
Deary
from me doing
me.
my arse
Right.
walking.
Good. Well, yeah, quite. Right, good morning, everybody. It was an interesting day yesterday. It actually started off as a relatively positive one for risk assets. The S&P at the highs was up by around 1.5%. The Nasdaq was up by well over 2% on the day. But then the market got a little bit jittery once more, and we actually saw all of those gains evaporate and more, with the S&P 500 ending the day around 0.75% lower. The Nasdaq falling by 1.2%, with some fairly chunky selling hitting the market as Europe left and as the US afternoon progressed. Interestingly, for those technicians out there, that was also the third day in a row that the S&P 500 has tested but failed to hold a closing break north of the 100-day moving average, which comes in around 53.50, which is, I guess, of interest if you are
Something
of a
just quick.
technical bent.
Well,
Go on.
matron. Just on these big moving averages, on these big moving averages. Worth noting as well, because obviously Oh god, everyone knows that I hate technical analysis.
And me.
However, I do have a soft spot. For the large significant moving averages, and it's one of the kind of the technical indicators, if you want to call it that, that's still used widely by everyone from like investment banks to, we're talking institutional brokers and stuff like that. So these 100 and 200-day moving average levels, they're not just watched by your technical analysts, they are watched by very significant players, 'cause obviously it's confirmation of following trades and CTAs and stuff like that. So if you were to look at one technical analyst tool, then for me it would be moving averages. So I think it's we got to look at it in that context.
I'll stick with my Elliott waves, but your point is noted.
You can go and do one.
I'll get Elliott to wave, whoever he is. Right, moving on
Hey.
from the equity space. Treasuries, interestingly, despite the selling that we saw in the stock market, Treasuries trading softer for the majority of the day, and actually extending on those declines after what was a pretty ugly 10-year auction yesterday. The US sold $42 billion worth of 10-year notes with a chunky 3.1 basis point tail. That compares to the 6 auction average average of a 0.1 basis point tail, so rather grim indeed. The 10-year note ending the day yesterday around 7 basis points higher, while the 2-year yield rose north of 4% once more, if I can say it. In the FX space, it was a relatively subdued day. We did have some early strength in some of the higher beta currencies, think the pound, the Aussie, the Kiwi, and the Canadian dollar, but all of those slid as the equity market gave up its gains, with most G10s ending the day pretty much unchanged. The dollar was stuck per the dollar index in a range of between 103 and 103.30 for the majority of the day, although we did see some fairly notable softness coming through in both the yen and the Swiss franc, which traded around 1.5% and 1% lower respectively. And last but by no means least, in the commodity space, gold traded flat around $23.90 an ounce, and crude WTI up 3% and north of the $75 a barrel mark once more. In terms of external catalysts, data and news flow was incredibly light yesterday. The only two things
Good.
of note were firstly that pretty grim 10-year Treasury auction, which I just alluded to, and secondly, and this is veering worryingly close to your geopolitical territory here, Ryan, but I'm going to mention it anyway, is
Go for it.
European natural gas prices hit a year-to-date high yesterday, up around 5% on the day. There are some shenanigans, shall we say, going on the Russia-Ukraine border. It looks like Ukraine has made some progress and actually sort of fought its way into Russia. And a lot of this is around some of the key nat gas transit points on the
Yeah,
Russian-Ukraine border. So just
I
one
think
to
there
bear
was
in mind.
also just directly following on that, there was some speculation that Ukraine might finally shut off the tap, because obviously, for those that aren't aware, and I'm sure everyone is, but I'll say it anyway. Throughout all of this war between Russia and Ukraine, Russia has been sending its gas via Ukraine into
Yes.
Europe, and Ukraine have been billing Russia for it, and Russia have been paying for it. So it's like this little kind of like side hustle that's going on between the two of them. We had news out this morning. Obviously, I'm assuming everyone follows the awesome PIQ Twitter account if you're listening to this. So if you have seen the headline, I know we post about a gazillion of them a day. But as of this morning, the gas flow was flowing as submitted by the nominations yesterday. So basically, what happens is Russia send a nomination of how much gas they want to flow through, and then Ukraine allow it or don't allow it. And I'm struggling to remember a time when Ukraine haven't allowed the full nomination to go through. So it's just one of those things to bear in mind.
Yes, indeed. But that's pretty much it from me, to be honest with you. So if
Yeah.
we want to go on to your full geopolitical rundown, we may as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Well, may as well. Okay. um, Thanks, mate. I'll tell you what. Rather than start in the Middle East, we'll just start. We'll just say a little bit more on this Russian thing. So yeah. So as Michael alluded to, Ukraine's launched a raid into Russian territory yesterday. They basically went into the Kursk region. The Russian governor of Kursk has issued a state of emergency. The Americans weren't too happy about this because it appears that they weren't informed beforehand, but obviously the State Department are kind of trying to word it in a way where they don't vocally or publicly slate the Ukrainians. So therefore, they're kind of taking the whole, oh, we give them all the tools to do whatever they need to do, and it's up to them what they do with it. Well, we know that's not entirely true, because we know that the US have been kind of quite significant parts of the military planning and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes from here. There's quite a bit of speculation from the reports I've read this morning that this is basically Ukraine trying to force the Russians to commit troops to protect their own region, like their own area, like their own land, basically, as opposed to focusing on moving further into Ukraine and taking Ukrainian territory. So we'll see how this one plays out. But anyway, back to everyone's favorite area, the Middle East. Um, so overnight we've had, and this morning we've had a couple of NOTAM issues. And for those that aren't aware, NOTAM basically it stands for Notice to Airmen, and it's what people
And
say is
women,
what
presumably.
countries and well, yeah, air people. Notice to air people. We're a politically the correct show. I don't know if anyone's gathered, but yeah, fuck them. Right. Anyway, so Egypt and the UK have issued NOTAMs to basically to pilots flying over Iran and Lebanon and all of that stuff. And basically, what it means is there's like, it's basically saying it's hazardous areas. Well, if they needed to be told this now, then where were they 6 months ago?
Can
So
I
yeah, but there's obviously a lot of
Can
people
I just add to that? Sorry.
gone.
Well, two things.
Yeah.
One is, particularly in the case of Egypt, I don't know about the UK or others, their airlines were already avoiding that airspace anyway,
Well, this
which,
is it.
as you say, you would expect. And the second thing is actually that I think some of the Egyptian foreign affairs pods were out last night and they confirmed that actually, in the case of Egypt specifically, this NOTAM was to do with pre-planned military training drills and artillery firing, and it
Yeah,
wasn't
military
necessarily.
exercises is the word,
Yes,
isn't it?
exactly. It wasn't necessarily a case of they've been given a bit of a wink and a nudge that something's imminent
Yeah.
because as you
No.
said yesterday, this retaliation's been 48 hours away for the last 4 days now.
Well, this is it, and this is exactly where I was going to go. Thank you for finishing my line on this one, but that's what I was about to say because basically everyone's getting frothy over this no time issues, but it seems very much run of the mill
Yeah.
stuff. So I wouldn't be reading too much into it. But moving on, Iran's UN envoy said that Tehran's priority is to punish the aggressors responsible for the assassination that took place in Tehran. And preventing the repetition of the terrorist attacks by Israel. This follows reports that the US officials said that Iran may be rethinking launching a multi pronged attack on Israel, while they do anticipate an Israeli response to the killing, but think Tehran seems to have recalibrated and the US does not expect an imminent attack. So your 24, 48 hours, 5 hours, 2 hours, it all seems to be fading off a little bit. However, Hezbollah, our friends in Lebanon, they're not really our
No,
friends.
no,
Don't know why I said it. I was joking. I was
you've
Bad
gone
joke
all
to make.
Jeremy Corbyn on us.
Oh God. Oh no. Don't. Oh mate, that's harsh. Hezbollah reportedly looks increasingly like it may strike Israel, independent of whether Iran may intend to do so or not. This would tie in with the fact that Iran seems to be pulling back the rhetoric slightly, and Hezbollah don't give a shit and they want to go all in. Um, Israel officials think the target for Hezbollah's response could be the IDF headquarters in the center of Tel Aviv or the Mossad headquarters and other key intelligence bases in northern Tel Aviv. So I guess if you're listening to this and you're around those, I'll avoid them at all costs. Um, what else we got? We got the White House has continued with talks with partners and leaders in the Middle East, including Qatar and Egypt, and urging de-escalation. Yeah, as a reminder, they've been doing this from day one, and it's not really getting anywhere. Saudi Deputy Foreign Minister said the assassination on Iranian soil is considered a blatant violation of Iranian sovereignty. Yemen Houthi said they targeted two US destroyers in the direction north of the Red Sea. So, north of the Red Sea, that would be the Mediterranean. So, well, anyway, I'm guessing they mean in the north of the Red Sea. Um, Moving over to, well, back to Russia, Ukraine. Russia's Medvedev, who our caveat thing I'm about to say, he's a very, very hawkish. He's very, very punchy. If he had the keys to the nuclear briefcase, he would have already used them. But Russia's Medvedev said that Russia must press on Odessa, Kharkiv, Dnipro, and Kiev, and and further. While he had Russia will only stop when it finds it acceptable and beneficial. But again, remember who's saying this. This is very well. To be honest, this is tame for Medvedev. So pinch of salt and all that. I wouldn't base any assumptions on what he's saying. Um, just a quick look. I'm guessing you're going to bring up the RPI. That's not really that anyway.